In this video, you're going to learn about variables, expressions, and equations. This could be something that's a little bit intimidating if it's the first time you're learning about it, but if you pay attention to this video and take notes along the way, I guarantee it will be easier than you expect. So let's start with our learning targets. Our learning targets for this lesson are: I can describe a variable as representing an unknown quantity. I can identify variables. I can identify algebraic expressions. I can identify equations. I can explain the difference between variables, algebraic expressions, and equations. And I can use a variable expression to represent a verbal expression. That may seem like a lot of learning targets for just one video, but I promise we will cover them all. So first we have to talk about what is a variable. Well, a variable is a letter or symbol that represents an unknown quantity, or it represents a number that does change. Now, you've seen variables before in science, but you might not have seen them in math. And like it says, it's a letter or a symbol. So these are some examples of variables. There's letters here on the left, A, C, T, really any letter in the alphabet. And then you can also use symbols. You might see this empty box or the heart or, a happy face or a star. Any of those things can be used to represent an unknown quantity or a number that can change. In order to understand variables and algebra and expressions, we also need to know what a constant is. And a constant is a fixed value. That means it's a number that doesn't change, which in this case, our examples are 5, 4, 22, 30, 12, 987, and 0. Really, it's any fixed value, and they can actually be decimals and fractions as well. These ones are just examples with whole numbers, but they really can be any number that has a value. So let's talk about what expressions are. An expression is like a phrase in math. It's not a complete sentence, and it doesn't have an equal sign. So an example of an expression would be a plus 4. In this case, you'll see a is our variable and 4 is our constant. Now, this is an expression because it's a phrase. It's not complete. It's not a complete sentence. So, you're wondering a plus 4, well, what does that equal? Because this is an expression, we actually don't know. And if we don't have any more information, we can't know. When you're working with algebra, I wanted to point out that when you're representing multiplication or division, for example, our expression example was an addition expression, but sometimes you'll see multiplication or division. Because we're using letters now with algebra or symbols, we have to be careful with how we represent our multiplication and division, and you'll see it lots of different ways. So you'll see for multiplication, I wrote 2 times t, how you normally do it if t is our variable. 2 times t, we really can't use that multiplication symbol x anymore because an x could also be a variable. So we're no longer going to use the x when we're representing multiplication or division. We're just going to use instead 2.t. That means times. If you put 2 in a parentheses and then the t inside the parentheses right next to the 2 like that, that also means multiplication. And if you just put the number next to the letter, that also means 2 times t. Division is the same. You can do t divided by 2, t/2, or t over 2, looking like a fraction. You can still use the division symbol for division. Now, there are a few types of expressions. There's algebraic expressions and numeric expressions. The ones that are algebraic are ones that just have variables and numbers, and the ones that are numeric will just have numbers. And we will talk in the next video about equations and then dive a little bit deeper.